A fresh start for a community space in San Diego, the much-needed upgrades that allow fans to curl up with a good book.
I'm going to win by double digits.
Now's when it really gets interesting.
A veteran congressman fighting to keep his seat, the national contest that may have a big impact on this local race.
I definitely get to the point where I'm drenched in sweat and have to hydrate. I probably drink 1.5 gallons of water a day while I'm here.
When the heat is on, the San Diego workers who takes a hit when dealing with hot weather. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Happening right now, early voting in San Diego County and around the Golden State. At least 960,000 ballots will be sent to voters starting tomorrow, and the presidential race is the biggest contest on the ballot. There has been renewed speculation over whether Donald Trump is having an impact on other GOP races after the release of a lewd videotape Friday. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh is outside the Registrar of Voters. Steve, for California voters, this is really the first day that all of this campaigning really begins to count.
Well, that's right, Ebony. At the moment, we're talking. In a moment, we're going to talk about whether Trump is having, and his poll numbers are having an impact on down ballot races like Congressman Darrell Issa, though. This is also the first day that voters can actually cast their ballots in the general election. I talked with the County Register of Voters, Michael Vu.
It has been busy. For Columbus Day, I anticipated it to be a little bit slower since it is a holiday. However, a number of individuals have come into our office and voted. I think it's a sign that people are understanding that it is a lengthy ballot this election, and so voters who are going to be outside, whether it's vacation or outside of their polling location on Election Day, to come inside our facilities here and cast a ballot early.
All right. So, are you worried? I mean, I'm looking at some of the things that will be sent out to voters through all of these voter guides. Are you concerned at all that it could take people a while to vote and it could lead to some long lines on Election Day?
We are. I think there's always concern when you have a presidential elections where we know that's going to be a high turnout, that there's going to be potentially long lines, individuals wanting to vote their ballot and taking the time to do so. But I think what's unusual, maybe unprecedented with this upcoming election is that for the very first time we've had to go to a 2-card ballot, 18 inches in length for each of the respective cards. As you can see here, you have the first card that voters will receive, and there'll be a second card associated with it as well. And for City of San Diego voters, there's contests on both the front side and back side of both cards. Those that are living outside of the city of San Diego, there'll be a front and back side of the first card and just the front side of the second card, which has a number of different contests. We have 184 contests that are going to be on the ballot. What that represents is 468 candidates that will be on the ballot and 52 statewide as well as local measures that are going to be out there.
All right, so even though voting has already started in California, there is still time to register. The deadline is actually October 24th. So on to the presidential election. Throughout the weekend, Republican candidates have been reacting to the 2005 Access Hollywood video where Donald Trump makes lewd comments and suggestive comments towards women. Some Republicans have pulled their support of their nominee, Congressman Darrell Issa, who is in a race with a retired Marine Colonel Doug Applegate, issued this statement. He said he found these comments and behaviors wholly inappropriate, offensive, and unfitting anyone seeking to lead our nation. There is never a time or a place where it's appropriate to make jokes about sexual assault. Now, Issa is in the toughest race he's had in his 16 years in office. After a weaker than expected showing in the primary, he's been campaigning hard, something he really hasn't had to do since taking office in 2001.
Nationally, Darrell Issa has been known mainly for this.
When you granted immunity to these 5 individuals, you took them out of the reach of prosecution for crimes committed related to destruction of documents or withholding or other crimes.
A firebrand digging into the controversy over Hillary Clinton's emails on Capitol Hill, like he did in September with FBI Director James Comey. After the June primary, Issa also wants to be known for this, his first yard signs in 16 years. His new slogan, "Working for Us."
Up until this point, had a very safe district that's allowed you to look at Hillary Clinton's emails, Benghazi, things like that. Has that changed now?
Look, Brian Terry
become more locally focused, and is that what you're telling people?
No, I'm not. I'm telling people I'm working for you in Washington on those global issues, on those national issues. My obligation is far beyond just my district. I've worked very hard on sand replenishment. We just had a big win in the last authorization just before we left.
Since California went to the top 2 primary for the 2012 congressional election, Issa hasn't received less than 60% of the vote. Not this time. Against his Democratic challenger Doug Applegate, Issa received just 51% of the vote. Some are blaming Issa's poor showing on his decision to embrace Donald Trump.
And the only way we're going to get our economy going again, the way Ronald Reagan did, is with somebody like Donald Trump.
Issa originally campaigned for Senator Marco Rubio, but when Trump came to the San Diego Convention Center in late May, the congressman gave his full-throated endorsement to the business mogul, comparing him to Reagan less than 2 weeks before the California primary. Around the same time, thousands of young supporters were energized by Senator Bernie Sanders, like Mary Latibashvili.
I think everyone was surprised, but I also think that because of the big push, because of the presidential election, because it is 2016, and because Bernie was on the ballot, I think that really drove a lot of students to vote.
The head of the UC San Diego Democrats is working for Doug Applegate.
I'm the Colonel Applegate over there, okay?
The retired Marine Reserve colonel admits he didn't really campaign in the primary.
Honestly, there wasn't a lot of campaigning from either side in the primary, so I think what you can take away from that is a baseline. And now's when it really gets interesting.
Applegate's working hard now.
Hey, gents, how you doing? Doug Applegate.
When he's not campaigning, he's stumping for cash, and he's getting help. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee has targeted the 49th Congressional District. Applegate won't say how much money he's raised, but in the last month, he spent a week in Washington. He had just come back from Seattle before I caught up with him again at a campaign stop outside the VA hospital in La Jolla. So, why does he think this race is close?
I think it's the hand-built negatives by Darrell Issa himself. He doesn't come back and talk to people. He certainly hasn't come back and talked to vets.
Applegate is still an unknown. He left active duty as a Marine in the 1980s, but remained in Southern California. He was a reserve officer and an attorney when he was called up in 2006 to serve in Iraq around Ramadi. As an attorney in 2008, he was part of a legal team that defended a former Marine sergeant from Riverside who was the first soldier charged with war crimes in civilian court. Applegate said he never considered running for anything before this election.
This was one of those things that there was a junction between everything I had done in my life up to this point, and I think that I'm better prepared than most people sitting up on the Hill when they first got there.
The general election heated up quickly. Issa put out a mailer highlighting Applegate's divorce in the early 2000s, where a judge issued 2 temporary restraining orders against him. Applegate's ex-wife released a statement supporting her ex-husband's campaign. An Applegate ad featured a 2011 New York Times story which accused Issa, often dubbed the richest member of Congress, of steering congressional earmarks to benefit some of his real estate holdings. Issa came back and threatened a lawsuit.
For me, I'm going to win by double digits. I'm going to win by double digits running on a record of what I've done in Washington. And I am proud of holding 2 administrations accountable, because that's really what.
So Republicans still hold an 8-point advantage in the number of registered voters in the 49th Congressional District. The question is, now that both campaigns are campaigning hard, which voters will come out in November? Reporting live from the County Register of Voters, Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
The second debate between presidential candidates was marked with hostility from the start. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump met center stage, bypassing the customary handshake. Trump was asked right off the bat about a video that came to light last week where he uses vulgar language about women and appears to condone sexual assault.
This was locker room talk. I'm not proud of it. I apologize to my family. I apologize to the American people. Certainly I'm not proud of it. But this is locker room talk.
Trump is hoping Sunday.
Clinton went after her opponent's fitness to serve.
With prior Republican nominees for president, I disagreed with them on politics, policies, principles, but I never questioned their fitness to serve. Donald Trump is different.
The rising cost of health care also came up in last night's debate. Clinton is vowing to fix the Affordable Health Care Act, while Trump is promising to repeal and replace Obamacare.
So I want very much to save what works and is good about the Affordable Care Act. But we've got to get costs down. We've got to provide some additional help to small businesses so that they can afford to provide health insurance.
Their method of fixing it is to go back and ask Congress for more money, more and more money. We have right now almost $20 trillion in debt. Obamacare will never work. It's very bad health insurance, far too expensive. And not only expensive for the person that has it, unbelievably expensive for our country.
Californians will be directly affected by the rising costs. The state's healthcare exchange, Covered California, is sending out notices about premium increases. KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg says residents should be in for some sticker shock.
Covered California premiums will be going up an average of 13.2% next year. The vast majority of policyholders qualify for a subsidy, which can make the price hike a bit easier to swallow. Exchange officials say most consumers will save money if they shop around. But comparison shopping can only go so far for people who make too much to qualify for a subsidy. Take, for example, a couple in San Diego who makes $80,000 a year. The cheapest HMO plan costs $416 a month, with a $6,300 deductible per person. Current policyholders can renew or switch plans now. The open enrollment period for everyone else starts November 1st. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
One of the questions for voters next month: should California fire up a cigarettes tax? From our sister station KCET, Val Zavala takes a look at what your vote means on this ballot measure.
Prop 56 in 1 minute, so focus. Prop 56 would add a $2 tax onto every pack of cigarettes sold in the state of California. It would also tax other tobacco products, including e-cigarettes that contain nicotine. Now, right now, California cigarette tax is only 87 cents per pack. The national average is $1.60 a pack. If Prop 56 passes, it would raise between $1 billion and $1.5 billion annually. Most of that money would go to Medi-Cal. That's the state program that helps the poor people with medical costs. And 13% more or less would go to smoking reduction programs. Then smaller amounts will go to tobacco research and law enforcement. Now, Prop 56 is supported by a whole slew of medical associations, but Big Tobacco is fighting back, and both sides will be spending millions to get it passed or defeated. So to sum up, a yes vote means yes, put a $2 state tax on every pack of cigarettes. A no vote means things stay the same.
Voters will also decide the future of capital punishment in California, which has the nation's largest death row, but it hasn't executed a prisoner in a decade. Associated Press reporter Terry Che says voters face two measures, one that repeals the death penalty and the other that aims to speed up the process.
San Quentin State Prison is home to the nation's largest death row, housing nearly 750 condemned inmates. But California has only executed 13 prisoners since the death penalty was reinstated in 1978. And no executions have taken place in the past 10 years due to legal challenges.
Yeah, it's hard to deal with, every day, that thought that, one day you might be executed. But it's a lot of people just here, you have people here 20, 30 years.
California is one of 3 states voting on the death penalty amid declining public support for capital punishment and a sharp drop in executions. Voters will decide on 2 competing ballot measures in November. Proposition 62 would abolish the death penalty and replace it with life in prison without the possibility of parole.
The death penalty system doesn't deliver on its promises. It's broken. It's broken beyond repair, and we just have to let it go.
Deanne Wilson's late husband, a California police officer, was killed in the line of duty in 2005. His killer, Irving Ramirez, remains on death row. Wilson initially supported the death penalty, but changed her mind after much research and soul-searching.
Him dying wouldn't bring back my husband. It wouldn't undo all of the horrible things that I went through and that my children went through.
The other ballot measure, Proposition 66, aims to speed up executions by limiting inmate appeals.
We're talking about people whose crimes are so egregious, so heinous, that the state has determined that that's the proper punishment for them.
Mark Klass's daughter, Polly Klass, was kidnapped and murdered 23 years ago. Her killer, Richard Allen Davis, lives nearby at San Quentin.
To get very personal about it, this, for me, is about ensuring that the guy that murdered my child meets the fate that he deserves.
Death penalty opponents say speeding up the process could lead to executions of innocent people, jam up the courts, and be very costly to taxpayers.
Hopefully they do get rid of it. I mean, they say they got to save money. So I advise them to read carefully and make sure you know what you're voting on.
As Election Day approaches, these condemned inmates now wait for voters to decide their fate. Terry Che, Associated Press, San Quentin, California.
You can find all of our election coverage online at kpbs.org/voter guide. That's where you can find more in-depth information on candidates, plus local and state ballot measures. A Palm Springs officer who was wounded during a standoff over the weekend has been released from the hospital. The suspect also killed 2 officers. He surrendered Sunday morning after 12 hours. Hundreds of people attended a candlelight vigil for the fallen officers last night. Sergeant Jose Gilbert Vega had worked for the department for 35 years and planned to retire in December. Officer Leslie Zerebny had been with the department for a year and a half and had just returned to duty after giving birth to a daughter 4 months ago.
And to see her laying down with her eyes open, and to witness her husband in full Riverside County Sheriff's uniform, because he's a deputy sheriff, kiss her on the forehead for the last time. It's tough.
Police say the officers were responding to a domestic disturbance call Saturday when 26-year-old John Hernandez Felix pulled out a gun and opened fire at the officers. Police say Felix is an ex-convict and an alleged gang member. Prosecutors say he will be charged with murder. Deadly police shootings are grossly underreported in California. That is the finding of a new Texas State University study. It says police departments in California and Texas failed to report hundreds of officer-involved deaths. From 2005 to 2015, the study finds California authorities did not list 440 use-of-force deaths in the state's mandatory reporting database. During the same time period, Texas officials did not list 220 use-of-force fatalities. The Texas-California Attorney General's offices have confirmed many cases were missing. Mild temperatures are expected in San Diego this weekend with warmer weather in the deserts. Larissa Abreu has that in tonight's forecast.
The weather has been fantastic over the last few days across the southwest region, and we're going to keep it that way here. Short term, at least, it'll remain nice and quiet across SoCal. We can see nothing but clear skies in the radar, really not much to talk about, and that's because high pressure is in control, generating the clear skies we will continue to see even as we head towards tonight. But we are in Southern California, so clouds will increase throughout the overnight, turning out partly cloudy. Then temperatures will dive right around 65 degrees, and it should remain nice and quiet. As we take a look at the San Diego County, temperatures range from the 40s to the 50s, even some 60s in spots. In Campo, lows will dive into the mid-40s, even cooler out in Mount Laguna, coming in at 43, 61 in Borrego Springs, 67 in Mecca. And then the closer to the coast you go, the better chance you'll run into a bit more cloud cover. That onshore flow will bring in the clouds. They should dissipate as we head towards Tuesday afternoon. Here's a look at Tuesday. Clear and tranquil conditions continuing across the entire southwest. It will be a little bit cooler. We've been experimenting with temperatures above average for this time of the year. Late in the week, conditions remaining nice and quiet in SoCal, but our neighbors in San Francisco points northbound will see some rain returning, even the potential for mountain snow on tap for the northern half of the Golden State. If you are along the coast, once again, we're going to start off our Tuesday with sunshine and some clouds. Temperatures will warm up to around 74 degrees. That trend of cooling temperatures will continue here Wednesday. We're down into the lower 70s. We bump up just a bit on Thursday. Sunshine and clouds continuing here. We're a little bit warmer by Friday, and then for the weekend it looks good. It'll turn out partly sunny and nice. Temperatures will remain in the mid-70s. As we head further inland, it's a little bit warmer here, a whole lot sunnier as well. It's going to be a stellar day on Tuesday with temperatures quite comfortable. Plenty of sunshine to enjoy, so make sure to go out, enjoy those outdoors, make the plans. It's going to be nice out there. We continue with pleasant weather here on Wednesday, but as far as the day goes, Tuesday is definitely looking like the better one. We'll see abundant sunshine by Wednesday. Clouds will increase, and that's pretty much going to be the trend here for the rest of the work week, with temperatures in the upper 70s and lower 80s. As we head towards the mountain, not bad here. Lots of sunshine Tuesday, temperature of 70, a little bit cooler by Wednesday, but still nice and sunny. On Thursday, we're right back into the 70s, so all in all, nice and quiet. Warm conditions continuing in the desert. We're at 95 degrees with ample sun. Sunny spells continuing for the rest of the week, and those temperatures remaining in the 90s. KPBS News, Larissa Abreu.
If you've ever worked in a non-air-conditioned environment, you've probably had this experience. All is fine until suddenly you realize the heat is affecting your concentration. Ingrid Lobet with our media partner iNews Source reports it could be an increasingly serious issue for employers.
UCSD economist Josh Graf-Ziven has been counting how many workers could be affected when temperatures are above, say, 85 degrees.
So in San Diego, we found that approximately 220,000 workers could potentially be affected by extreme heat but because they work in occupations that are exposed to the elements.
I definitely get to the point where I'm drenched in sweat and have to hydrate. I probably drink 1.5 gallons of water a day while I'm here.
Hajosi is trained as an EMT, so he knows how to stay safe. That's good because Graf-Ziven and others have found that when we get overheated, our accuracy is reduced. We just make more mistakes.
Cognitive processes, as you, I'm sure, are aware, are important for everything, every aspect of our life. Every decision we make relies on cognitive processes. Every task we perform at work relies on cognitive processes. So even modest impairments of those cognitive processes can amplify or be magnified throughout our day and throughout our lives to add up to quite consequential implications.
And with climate change, in just 30 years, San Diego could have 7 times more heat waves. I'm Ingrid Lobet for KPBS partner iNews Source.
San Diego County's newest casino opened its doors today. Hollywood Casino in Jamul is open for business. State Road 94 is still backed up for miles. The added traffic was just one argument neighbors made against the entertainment complex. The $400 million development was faced with strong opposition from neighbors and some lawmakers.
I've heard about this since I was a little girl. I'm 25 now, so it's been a while. So a lot of outside, negativity, but through it all, we tuckered through it and we're here.
The new casino has more than 1,700 slot machines and 8 restaurants. Opponents say it will lead to more alcohol-related accidents. They wanted added road improvements. One of San Diego's busiest libraries has reopened its doors today for the first time in more than 6 weeks. KPBS reporter Taryn Minto says residents trickled into the City Heights Weingart Library this morning after it got a more than $300,000 renovation.
One of the first patrons at the library's soft opening Monday was Melody Tibbetts. The City Heights resident said she closely followed the library's closure on social media.
We were following it on Facebook. That's why we knew it was open today, and we came the first day because obviously, and you can imagine I have like a stack of papers there that I needed to print out.
Tibbetts says she regularly uses the library to print out applications and other papers, check out books with her daughter, and just to cool off. The location is convenient because she doesn't have a car to travel the 2 miles to the next nearest branch, which was a problem during the closure.
It's difficult, so we had to go other places. places. We'd end up in Starbucks or, and it's nice because it's free here.
The library got even nicer during the last 6 weeks. A community development block grant partially funded new carpets, fresh paint, and improved bathrooms. Staff also added barcodes to materials for self-checkout. City Heights branch manager Jennifer Guerin says the updates were badly needed.
It did need to be done. This building's been open for going on 20 years now and was badly in need of new carpeting and new paint, and just a fresh new start.
That fresh start begins now. The library and its programs are back on a regular schedule. A grand opening event is scheduled for October 21st. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
Last night's presidential debate was full of fire and insult, but after 90 minutes, a bright spot of civility. The candidates were asked to note one thing they respected about each other.
I respect his children. His children are incredibly able and devoted, and I think that says a lot about Donald.
She does fight hard, and she doesn't quit, and she doesn't give up, and I consider that to be a very good trait.
We'll see if that tone of respect extends through the next debate. It's on Wednesday, October 19th, and we'll air that live right here on KPBS. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.